China is a big country. As a global political player and a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, China has a responsibility for peace in the world. I said to President Xi that it's important for China to exert its influence on Russia. This is about keeping to the principles of the United Nations Charter, on which we all agreed, principles such as the sovereignty and territorial integrity of every country, which are also important to China.
Joining me live is Ulrich Brueckner from Berlin. He is a professor of European Studies at Stanford University. Ulrich, good to have you on the show. The German Chancellor's visit did bring along a fair bit of criticism. I'm wondering if you see a problem for Germany in the sense that its economic interests have become harder to sacrifice when it comes to sort of certain values, especially at a time of crisis.
Well, it was Olaf Scholz who told us that we live in new times, that there is a turning point, and the world in 22 is no longer what we got used to in the 16 years of Angela Merkel when she was Chancellor of Germany. Now he has to deliver, and it's not just we are living in a different European environment and Russia is invading Ukraine, but we also have to rethink our dependencies. And there is a strong dependency on Russia, on China, when we look at the economic ties, both in foreign direct investment as well as in trade. And of course, you also mentioned human rights issues, but the United States urged Germany to rethink its China policy. The European Union is working on one, and Scholz is also under pressure within its own coalition because his coalition partners have slightly different perspectives. What he thinks is the best to deal with China.
Do these comments, we live in a new world, it does go against, as you said, sort of the U.S.'s stance, who has been sort of decisively and comprehensively against China. Does this kind of show you that, yes, we may be allies, but we may not see eye to eye on every single issue?
Well, it is in the nature of Western pluralism that we all have different perspectives and we all have different priorities. And given our historical relations, we also see things the way we want to see them. President Macron of France, for example, was very upset that the invitation from the Élysée to travel together was rejected because Scholz wanted to send a signal that this is a German mission. And at the same time, he believes that only the European Union as a whole could play a role in a shrinking world with holes. But the United States has a very strong perspective on China, which is described as a rival. In our case, we try to separate the security part and the economic part and prefer to see China as a competitor. But this is changing in public opinion, and it also affects Scholz's perspective, and that is the reason why he got under pressure before the trip. I think it is important that he sent a signal that China shouldn't see the war in Ukraine as a proxy war between Russia and the United States. This is first and foremost a European problem, and to send a signal that China could be the game changer made it a legitimate visit, despite all the problems before and after.
Well, look, I think there might be a potential problem. I think this commercial first approach towards China right now that's being displayed by Germany, I understand it, but do you see any risks in the future that it could resemble the stance that Germany took towards Russia?
There is no longer a priority for trade first. This is something we have seen with Angela Merkel and also with Gerhard Schröder, that the main purpose of traveling to China with a large group of business leaders was to return home with a large number of trade deals and investment agreements. This is no longer the case. There is a group of business leaders traveling, and big companies like the chemical giant BASF and Volkswagen and Daimler and Mercedes, they announced that they want to increase their investment. But Germany is not just a few big companies. It's first and foremost small and medium-sized enterprises, and they got very, very sensitive when it comes to relations with China.
Ulrich Brueckner, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. Do appreciate the analysis. Thank you.